Hi friends, in this video I'm going to show you the 10 most harmful healthy foods attacking your gut. And I'm also going to show you some foods that can help you repair it. Now, these foods have been eaten for generations. And the thing is, no one appreciated how vital your gut microbiome literally is. It dictates not only your health of your gut, but also your blood pressure, your blood sugar, as well as your response to cancer chemotherapy. So by the end of this video, you'll understand how these foods change your immune system to put you at higher risk for all sorts of chronic conditions. Now, the goal of this video is not to promote fear, but to empower you to rebuild your microbiome within days. And that's why everyone can benefit from eating foods that feed your microbiome to counteract the damage. And I'm going to show you how you can get started with this simple 7-day gut reset. Now, the first food, which I absolutely loved as a kid, was preserved meats. That was my favorite lunch food. Now, what's wrong with that? People have been doing that for ages and eons. Yeah, but remember, people didn't live very long before. We all know fresh is better, yet Americans eat 60 pounds of old, preserved, processed meats like bologna, salami, ham, deli meats, some of which are the most gut-damaging foods on earth. Now, look at these ingredients. There's corn syrup. How's that meat? Modified cornstarch. How is that meat? Dextrose. How is that meat? That's all sugar, folks. Then you have sodium phosphates. That's not even food. And some people question its potential toxicity, skin irritation, allergies, damage to your respiratory tree. What about sodium erythrobate? That has concerns over, developmental delays, endocrine problems, reproductive effects. And how about sodium nitrate, which has concerns because it's a carcinogen? Now, you're going to hear a lot of health gurus saying it's been deemed to be safe at the dose that you're given. Well, if you're eating 60 pounds of processed meats, you really think that's a safe dose? I think we're getting repeated small doses every day that repetitively tax our bodies through all sorts of things that we eat. But the reality is, it's not just going to be your nitrates, it's going to be oxidized fats in the meat. Look how much saturated fat is in this product. And then you add high heat, well, you're going to make advanced glycation end products. And I didn't even mention heme iron. It's like a boxing ring, and you know they have a 1-2 punch, and then you're down, and then they punch you over and over again, and then you can never get up. That's what these chemicals do to your health. And you're not just eating one chemical. You're eating a compilation of chemicals, some of which are added and some of which naturally form in the cooking process. Now, together, these compounds, you better bet they tax your gut. They thin your gut mucus layer. They increase inflammation, especially from bile acids. They shift your microbiome towards species that promote colon inflammation. Over time, this raises colon cancer and weakens your gut barrier integrity. Leaky gut is not some make-believe syndrome. The World Health Organization has deemed processed meats to be a group 1 carcinogen. And sure, there are always going to be skeptics saying that we just don't have absolute proof. We don't have randomized controlled trials. Well, we don't have randomized controlled trial for tobacco smoke either. Are you going to volunteer? Yet the evidence is pretty clear that the more you smoke, the more chronic medical problems you're going to have. And during the last years of your life, you're probably going to be suffering quite a bit. You're just accelerating aging, whether that's through heart disease, vascular disease, kidney disease, lung disease, and a whole bunch of other cancers. And of course, it's not like there's no benefit to eating processed meats. Sure, you're going to get protein. And if you literally had no other food, then yeah, processed meats is better than nothing. I would say the same for donuts. But if you're on a budget, let's face it, they're not budget-friendly foods. They're actually quite expensive for the little piece of thinly sliced protein that you get. I have lots of friends who insist on eating enough protein. Well, here's a great simple protein replacement for your sandwiches, which I have here. So I swap processed meats for mushrooms or beans. And if you have lion's mane mushroom, I don't have it here, you can soak it in your favorite sauce and gently heat it on a pan. And then you can pair it with hummus, which I have here, with leafy greens, some avocados, tomatoes, whole grain bread, and you're gonna get enough protein to last you for this sandwich, but not to overwhelm your system. So I really only buy whole grain breads. This bread is called Ezekiel. And if you simply swap, your traditional thin slice of protein protein, you can talk to your immune system to lower inflammation simply because you're increasing fiber every time you eat whole foods with plants. By increasing fiber fermentation, you increase butyrate production. And as a result of this pretty easy swap, you begin to repair your gut. Now, just so that I'm clear, gut damage doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen after one meal. Just like putting cheap gasoline in your car, damage comes when you do it every day, when normal food is on repeat. And I think we treat our cars better than our bodies, don't you? Foods that you eat every day and every week, they leave sediment, those toxins that are like bad gasoline. And that's why it's so dangerous. And by the time the symptoms show up, bloating, fatigue, autoimmune flares, really stubborn like weight gain, food sensitivities, and even colon cancer. You know, sometimes it's so late that you can't turn back the clock. But the good news is our bodies are resilient and it can repair itself early in the game if we remove the insults. Now, I'm sure you could have guessed the second one because I mentioned it earlier, but I'm also sure you're probably making exceptions and eating them from time to time. That's French fries, which some people consider to be their vegetable. Now, technically, French fries are from potatoes, but it's more like a donut. Super oily starch, the perfect combo to just spike your blood sugars and keep it high longer. Now, oxidized oils, they inflame the gut lining. And then you have high temperature cooking that produces acrylamide, another carcinogen. Now, this combination basically feeds inflammatory microbes and increases gut permeability to give you, a leaky gut. And I used to think it was something made up. How can you really have a leaky gut and walk around? You should be kicking the bucket if you have live bacteria that crosses over your gut. Well, now we know that's not true. Live bacteria have been found living in visceral fat outside of your gut lumen. And we also know visceral fat secretes a lot of inflammatory molecules to mess your body up. Leaky gut increases intestinal permeability, well documented, to flare celiac disease, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, type 1 diabetes, and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And we know diet plays a major role in everybody, including people who eat a lot of saturated fat and ultra-processed foods. Now, the potato itself is really not the problem, even though it has starch. But to counteract the problem, potatoes should not be eaten deep fried in oil. They should be boiled whole, steamed, or paired with leafy greens and beans. Boiled potatoes is actually shown to help people reduce weight. It has a lower glycemic load. So when you eat potatoes, avoid adding butter, solid oils or fats or coconut oil or vegetable oils. Try to make a creamy sauce. Just soak your nuts or seeds in hot water or beans and blend that in water for a few minutes. Yes, nuts and seeds have fat, but they have a lot of fiber. And the difference between taking a whole nut or seed versus a creamy sauce poured from a bottle is that when you buy store bottles, there's no food matrix. That is oil. There's no fiber. They threw it all out. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that number 3 is also bad for you. But nevertheless, you probably still eat it once in a while or maybe every day. Donuts. Honestly, every country has their version of a donut. Just basically fried dough. And that's any food that combines refined flour, sugar, and oil or fats. This trio starves beneficial gut bacteria while it feeds endotoxin-producing microbes, which sounds pretty bad. It is. It's absolutely terrible. Ever heard of sepsis? That's a very common condition that starts in the gut for most people. Anyone can get it? I got mine when my appendix busted. I was shivering. My hands were clammy and sweating. I was so tired. My heart was racing out of my chest. My abdomen had so much pain that I couldn't even stand up straight. Now, if my abdomen is hurting, then why did I have those symptoms that were so far away from my abdomen? Ever think about that? Well, that's because endotoxins, when they leak into your bloodstream, they go circulated around your blood. And why would anybody want that on purpose? Because then you have systemic symptoms. No one should, right? Now, here's the deal. You don't have to be a bad appendix to have a leaky gut barrier. Just keep in mind, eating fried dough, which causes nutrient deficiencies, will get you to that same corner faster. These ultra-processed foods not only have bad stuff in it, it's also missing critical nutrients to keep your body healthy. So when your gut barrier weakens, you'll have inflammation, and that allows endotoxins to leak. The more endotoxins you leak, the more chronic inflammation you get. You also activate your immune system, and then you're promoting insulin resistance. So this isn't about willpower, it's all about biology. If you want to reduce inflammation, you got to move away from fried dough. Use an air fryer instead so you can use much less oil, and instead of of using your white refined flour, think about adding a whole grain flour to increase fiber density. And of course, it'll never taste exactly like your original, but that just means you get to retrain your palate into a new texture for your health. And if you eat black beans, oats, wheat germ, walnuts, and leafy greens, you can start to restore microbial diversity while you reduce your endotoxin absorption by repairing your leaky gut. Now, the next one may totally shock you. Number 4, wine, basically alcohol. Alcohol directly damages your gut cells and increases intestinal permeability. Did you know that soldiers, they used to use alcohol to sterilize instruments between procedures or preserve their instruments? Obviously, it's not the greatest disinfectant, as more soldiers died from infection than bullets. Now, if you have ever spilled alcohol over a wound, you know it causes intense burning, right? So why do you think it's safe to pour it over the thinnest tissue in your body, your gut? That is literally one cell layer thin. And that's what you do every time you drink. I have a friend who likes her wine, and while the wine, red wine, has polyphenols, it still has ethanol. The strategy should not be just to balance wine with food, but dictating alcohol-free days and tanking up on protective ingredients like raspberries that have been shown to reverse precancerous lesions. Now, the next one is America's favorite sandwich, hamburgers. So maybe you could make it healthier by having it bunless? Well, I agree that the white ultra-processed flour is not great, but the rest of the sandwich is worse, loaded with saturated fat, heme iron, increasingly harmful compounds in the gut. Now, when the patty is grilled, pan-fried, or charred, advanced glycation end products, EGEs, form, heterocyclic amines form, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons form. Yeah, it doesn't sound good because it's not. These compounds are associated with DNA damage, inflammation, increased colorectal cancer risks. The more you take, the higher those risks. Now, beef contains carnitine. The gut bacteria converts carnitine into TMA, which the liver converts to TMAO. Now, elevated TMAO levels associated with atherosclerosis and progression, which can lead to ischemic gut. In addition, there is increased bile acid secretion, which damages colonic cells, shifts the microbiome towards inflammatory species. Now, red meat fermentation, that also produces toxic metabolites that impair mitochondrial function in the gut. And replacing the red meat patty with lentil-based patties and adding more leafy greens like this arugula or other green leafy vegetables can dramatically lower your gut stress without sacrificing satiety. Another one of my childhood favorites is beef jerky, which is number 6. Now, I'm sure you like it for its nutritious concentrated protein, but there are a ton of drawbacks. Now, when the U.S. Army is hesitant to serve it, we should be hesitant to eat it. Now, what does the U.S. Army know that we don't? Well, number 1, sodium. Beef jerky is very high in sodium. A small ounce serving can contain 400 to 700 milligrams of sodium. So in combat environments, sodium could be helpful in hot climates, but excessive intake increases dehydration risk, especially when water is limited. Sodium can raise your blood pressure over time, and it can impair your performance in some settings. Look, folks, the Army has spent countless amount of dollars and resources to calculate exactly what a soldier needs to nourish their bodies. So if they don't think it's a good idea to eat, why should any of us who live a sedentary lifestyle or have an office in the White House? We need to reinvent our own longevity. If you're wondering why your blood pressure doesn't come down and you're eating a ton of jerky, maybe you want to give that up. Now, to be clear, electrolytes are very important. They need to be carefully balanced. And the military takes that very seriously. But the public, I don't think so. 40% of Americans have high blood pressure. And did you know that magnesium can help to reduce your blood pressure? Since many people are unaware that they have high blood pressure, since it often has 0 symptoms, these numbers likely underestimate how many people truly are affected in the United States with this reality. And in this day and age, with blood pressure monitors so cheap, why should there be any reason why we're not checking blood pressure every single day? So let's check mine. Okay, so you want to sit down and cross your legs and put your blood pressure meter to line it up with your artery that's in the middle of your elbow. So usually they have a little marker that's either an X, this one has a circle, to tell me where to put it. So I just want to make sure that it's around my arteries, and then I'm going to press start. Okay, so it's a little low, 86 over 63 and 82. I usually run in the 90s. So I'm going to check this other arm. I don't feel dizzy at all. I've been walking around, exercising, stretching. I'm pretty relaxed. So I'm going to check it again just to see what this is. And it may not agree, right? The two numbers. Guess it agrees. It's 82 over 68 and 85. So I get to drink a little bit more water today. Usually my blood pressure is low, but my heart rate is a little bit higher, maybe because I've been exercising more. So I'm going to drink more water to fix that. To be clear, if you have low blood pressure or high blood pressure, call your own medical doctor to get personalized medical advice. So many people are unaware that they are walking around with high or low blood pressure because it obviously most of the time have no symptoms. And because they have no symptoms, we are likely underestimating how many people are really affected. And in this day and age, there should be no reason why we don't have our own meter and to course correct ourselves before something happens, right? And my diet is usually low sodium, but jerky is very high in protein, low in carbohydrate, high in sodium, and is low in fat unless it's added. And soldiers these days, they really need a way to sustain energy. So they actually need carbohydrates for intense activity. They also need to balance their macronutrients, and pure dry meat is not energy dense enough for them. The other problem with jerky is that it's really tough. Have you eaten some? Now, you can break your teeth in the middle of deployment, and that's a major operational concern because soldiers, they can't easily access a dentist or any dental care. So hard food simply increases the risk of cracked teeth. And unfortunately, jerky doesn't survive actually extreme temperatures. And the military also understands that commercial jerkies contain a lot of preservatives like sodium nitrite, added sugars, and that's associated with an increased risk of colorectal cancer. I don't think they want to give their soldiers that. And if you think about why this happened, you should realize that jerky is protein. That kind of protein putrefies in your colon, producing ammonia and sulfur compounds that continue to irritate your gut lining. Now, wouldn't it be better to have high protein meals that doesn't do that and repairs your gut instead? So you can have beans, you can have nuts like pistachios, walnuts paired with vegetables. This provides high protein and fiber to support the mucus layer in your gut to help keep your microbiome healthy.
Hi friends, I am so thrilled that you want to take charge of your health and take charge of your food. Now, I know nutrition can be complex, but it doesn't have to be. And I'm here to support you in this lifelong journey. So if you point your camera app to this QR code, it'll take you to a link for a free handout that I created just for you. And if you like it, if you want to see other handouts, please go to the link in my show notes and then you can leave me your feedback on what I could do to help you in your journey. Okay, back to the video now.
Now, I've been totally focused on processed meats, but is fresh meat any better? You know, kind of like number 7 steak or any red meat. Pork, by the way, is a red meat. I have a friend who raises her own animals to eat, so she feeds it much better than you would get animals fed from the market, right? But the fact of the matter is red meat, whether that's beef, pork, or lamb, steak, if you eat that regularly, it increases colon cancer risk through a number of different inflammatory pathways, including heme iron. Now, iron is highly oxidative, and that is why oxidative stress is what I'm trying to avoid. So there is just no way that I need to be constantly eating red meat foods, and that would counteract the antioxidants that I'm trying to eat found in fiber-rich whole foods. Now, when you eat any kind of red meat, you're also going to induce bile acids to be released. Biliary tract infections are some of the most difficult infections to treat. Pathogenic organisms are the ones that usually like to thrive in the biliary tree. And then you have fiberless foods with bile acids together. You're going to really negatively impact your gut and your gut microbiome really unfavorably. And this isn't my dietary bias. This is chemistry. This is microbiology. This is not opinion. The good news is you can mitigate the harmful effects of red meat by eating antioxidant-rich whole foods like beans. You can eat it in hummus. Leafy greens, this is arugula. You can eat any other kind of leafy green. These bind bile acids to reduce oxidative damage in your colon. And another really important point is raw meat. Did you know that people who work in meat department in the grocery store have a high rate of getting colonized with superbugs, which could possibly be causing a whole host of chronic diseases that are not just infectious diseases, but diseases of metabolism. So what about white meat, like number 8 chicken? That's often considered to be safer, but modern poultry is a major source of drug-resistant bacteria, super bugs. These microbes can colonize the gut and urinary tract, contributing to chronic inflammation and recurrent E. coli urinary tract infections. So did you know that poultry workers have a higher cancer mortality for several different types of cancer? We know that poultry has oncogenic poultry viruses, basically viruses that causes cancer in these chickens. And how much of it is being transferred to these people these occupations, right? So occupational carcinogens. And then they inhale these fumes from the machines. All that can contribute to it. So that's why it's much safer to replace some of your chicken with some beans again, soybeans, split peas, lentils. That actually has definitely less pathogens while it strengthens your microbial competition, then suppresses those harmful bacteria to make the good guys rise. The next one is no surprise, white bread, which is rapidly converted to glucose and contains almost no fiber. This is not white bread. This is a whole grain and bean bread. Let me put it together, right? Bad microbes, they love sugar, and they will starve the good ones if you're not eating fiber. That will make less short-chain fatty acids and weaken your gut barrier. Now, pairing grains with beans, which is also in this bread, replacing that white refined bread with fiber-rich foods restores microbial fermentation to really stabilize your blood sugar. And again, what kind of bread should you eat? Well, how about Ezekiel sprouted bread? The worst carb of all, though, is plain sugar. Sugary soda, yogurt. Have you seen how much sugar is in flavored yogurt? They are ironically marketed as healthy, but it overwhelms the gut with purified chemical sugar, canceling out probiotic benefits. Now, the idea that you have to take a probiotic over and over to colonize your gut just makes absolutely no sense to me. Bacteria multiply every 15 minutes. Ever get food poisoning? You leave something out on the countertop like your raw meat, and then you think you're cooking it, but really you're spreading bacteria all over your counter. You're gonna have pathogenic bacteria all over that kitchen flourishing within hours, and that's how people get sick, food poisoning. So why is it that we have to take probiotics every single day if we're eating the right foods? Probably because we're not eating the right foods, right? So when you don't eat the right foods, those bacteria die off and then the bad ones grow. But if you eat whole foods with fiber, like the sandwich, then you're going to be feeding good bacteria. You're going to be giving prebiotics to your bacteria and then promoting it to make you postbiotics. Now, there are no probiotics in soda. Dude, soda is just liquid sugar that feeds directly inflammatory bacteria and damages your gut lining. The fix is removing the liquid sugar and replacing it with whole foods that you can chew. Chewing slows the absorption. Keeping it whole slows the absorption. This allows your microbiome to build. So how can you start? Well, that's where my 7-day gut reset comes in. The gut really heals very quickly when you give it a loving environment. So for the next 7 days, the goal is not perfection. It's just to start. So remove the most damaging foods, which we talked about, and flood the gut with whole foods rich in fiber. This color has phytonutrients. These are protective compounds. And make sure you enjoy those items. There's thousands to choose from. And each day, center on adding something. Adding some beans, leafy greens, nuts, whole grains. This restores microbial diversity, thickens the mucus layer, lowers inflammation, and reduces endotoxin exposure to the rest of your body. Now, most people notice less bloating, better energy, and calmer digestion within a week if they go all out. However, if you're not able to go all out, I can understand that. That's okay. Just every week, pick an item on this list to remove and then add one fiber-rich whole food to replace it. And for the next 7 days, just keep working on that one task until you have it down and then build on it, right? Keep that removed item gone and just keep adding whole food. That's the beginner's level. Now, if you are all in to play harder, you can design day one as elimination of irritants to calm your inflammation. What you're really doing is to stop actively damaging your gut by eliminating those things that damage your gut. So in other words, you're basically fasting from your regular diet. And just by simply removing the toxins, many people will notice less symptoms within 24 hours. But some of these toxins, they take a while to leave your body, especially these allergens. And the point is not to fast from all food. And then in day 2, rebuild the mucus layer. The gut lining needs raw materials to repair itself. Focus on day 2, foods that increase mucus thickness and gut integrity. That includes foods high in soluble fiber. Eat some oats, add some wheat germ, add some ground flaxseed, add some beans, add some cooked leafy greens, kale or collards. Avoid dry, low fiber foods. Hydration matters every day, especially if you're active. So the fiber and the beta glucans in these foods, they stimulate protective mucus production. But you need water to make mucus. And that mucus acts as a physical barrier between bacteria and your gut cells. So focus on getting hydrated. And then number 3, feed your beneficial bacteria aggressively. That's all about microbial diversity. So you can do this in so many different ways. Instead of just eating one bean, eat 3 different beans like chickpeas, black beans, and lentils. Add onions, leeks, garlic, and asparagus if you tolerate that, right? These fibers are selectively fermented into short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which directly reduces colon inflammation and lowers colon colon cancer risk. And you may notice that you'll increase a bit of gas. That's normal and temporary. It's a sign fermentation is happening in you. Day 4 is to lower your endotoxin and lower your immune activation. So by now the gut barrier is improving. So today's focus is on reducing the immune overactivation. And as a reminder to avoid your alcohol, really limit or eliminate animal protein, limit or eliminate refined carbohydrates entirely, and limit or eliminate saturated fat. Emphasize things like split pea soup, leafy green salads, walnuts, pistachios, a hummus sandwich. Add nuts that help bind inflammatory compounds, while legumes continue to stabilize your blood sugars and insulin. If you have been eating a whole food, plant-based diet and avoiding everything that I've listed above, you're getting more insulin sensitive. Number 5, let's focus on that principle. Restore your insulin sensitivity and your gut-brain signaling. Insulin spikes worsen when gut permeability is worse. So today's meal should be slow digesting, fiber-anchored meals. Whatever carbs you're eating, whether it's whole potatoes or whole grains or whole beans, pair that together with other foods that don't have as much fiber, right? Add nutritional yeast to your meals to spike up your protein and immune support with beta-glucans. Now, many people report improved energy and mental clarity around this day. As a gut-brain signaling, it stabilizes. So avoid added fats, creamers, cooking oil, saturated fat. You will significantly improve and shorten your healing time and increase your blood flow when you get your body more insulin sensitive. However, let's get even more granular on day 6. Strengthen your colon. Protect it. The colon heavily relies on short-chain fatty acids for energy. So today, eat foods that maximize butyrate production, short-chain fatty acids like black beans, lentils, oats, barley. Cold bean salads works great. You can put it in a hummus. And if you cool that and then eat it, you actually get more resistant starch. And this day, actually this whole week, is critical in lowering our colon cancer risk and repairing long-standing gut damage from processed foods. Day 7, work on your green foods. We all do not eat enough greens. Greens have chlorophylls, rich in magnesium, beta-carotene, vitamin C. And if you make them cruciferous, you also have sulforaphane to support your glutathione redox system. Your glutathione redox system is super critical. And if you want to learn more about that, watch the next video. All right, I am hungry and I'm going to eat now.